We also have the branch chairperson of ASUU FUTA, Comrade Professor P.B. Mogaji. Also with us here is the guest speaker, Comrade Professor Debo Ajayi. We are still expecting our keynote speaker, Comrade Professor Abori Shade, but as soon as he's around, we'll be calling him to the high table as well. Then we also have some important dignitaries among us, other union chairmen, branch chairperson, Comrade Professor Alex Anthony Odiwe is around, but I guess he just left briefly. We also have Comrade Professor Isiaka Amaho, the former council chairman, ABU, is also seated here. We have Comrade Professor O.A. Fashonabaku, former chairperson ASUU FUTA, the chairman Social Mobilization Project, is also seated here. We also have other dignitaries. It's going to be taking a lot of time mentioning all the dignitaries we have here. All our dignitaries are well recognized. Then we want to call on the branch chairperson, Comrade Professor P.B. Mogaji, to give us the chairman's opening remark.
Thank you very much. Solidarity forever. Solidarity forever. Solidarity forever. For our unions makes us strong. Victory, there is a victory for all. Victory, there is victory for all. In our struggles for our members, there is victory for all, for all, ever backward, never in our struggle for our members, there is victory. Isolator in Africa, a luta continua, Victoria Asanta. Thank you, Comrade. Let us have a seat. I really want to appreciate God Almighty for this opportunity to be here this morning. First and foremost, I want to appreciate our chief host, in person of Comrade Professor Adenike Temidayo Latiji, has been a very strong supporting pillar in this university. Anytime we are with her, I say, no, don't address me as Vice Chancellor, I'm one of the comrades. And she has been demonstrating that, and everything also attests to the fact that she's one of us. We really want to say, you are welcome, ma. Again, we want to welcome our guest speaker, Comrade Professor Debo Ajayi, a veteran, a renowned activist. We have heard much about you, we have read much about your work, and we say, welcome. And we want to thank you especially for honoring this invitation, despite the fact that it came at a very short time. But even with your tight schedule, you find that time to be able to attend this. We don't want to take that one for granted. We say thank you very much, sir, for coming. And again, I want to appreciate our past chairperson in this branch. Also happen to be the past zonal coordinator of Akure zone, Comrade Professor Alex Odiwe. Oga, you are welcome. Say thank you. And all other respected dignitaries here this morning, you are welcome. And again, before I move on, let me welcome the chairperson of OAU, walking in majestically, Comrade Unless with you. Please come over here, sir. Please come and have a seat here. Okay, you are comfortable there? Okay, thank you very much. There's no better time in our country today that we can be discussing, civil rights. Civil rights as pertain to every individual. Your right as a human being, your right as a worker, your right as a citizen. The rejection of this has already been trampled upon. And it is very necessary for us to be able to know exactly what is in store for us. How do we navigate? How do we maneuver in this kind of situation? And that is the more reason why this lecture is timely. Yesterday, or day before yesterday, we knew exactly what happened in this country. Take it back, Nigeria. We're on the street, demonstrating, talking about bad governance, talking about violation of human rights here and there. So, coupled with all this, we felt this is the appropriate time to sensitize us so that we know our rights. We know how we are going to execute it, how we are going to make it to work in our favor. The right methodology we need to adopt for us to be able to achieve all our set objectives as far as unionism is concerned. So on that note, comrade, I know that coming here today is going to be of huge benefits to all of us, because at the end of the day, we'll have a lot of things as a takeaway from this lecture. And I know that the person that is going to dish out this lecture is somebody with the wealth of experience, somebody that has been in the forefront of struggle before in the past. And I enjoy you to please be 100% attentive. And at the end of the day, we have something good to talk about it. So on this note, I want to say happy celebrations to all of us. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Comrade Chairman. It's a very good keynote remark. And before we continue, we also want to welcome some important dignitaries that just came in. Among them is Comrade Professor E.O. Adeparusi, Member, Council FUTA. Then Professor Awodele, Chairman, DAP. Then Comrade, Director DAP. Apologies for that error. Then Professor A.S. Ajiboye is also among the important professors we have on campus here. Then we want to call on the Vice Chancellor to give us her remark.
Good message. Thank you very much. Comrade Oladiji, Vice is not here. The chairperson, my able chairman, other chairmen of branches here present, our distinguished resource persons. I'll start from our grandpa, Oloriebi of FUTA, Professor Aborishade. Also an elder statesman whom I have known since the University of Ilorin days, Professor Debo Ajayi. Our esteemed council members here present, and distinguished comrades. One good thing about ASUU is that ASUU is a leveler. We are all comrades and we are colleagues. And if there is one thing I like in being an academic, it's just the fact that we do not have all these protocols and bottlenecks and all of those things. We are a free community. I enjoy that as a member of the academic community. I want to welcome everybody to to this important and very important event of today. I'm particularly happy that we are looking in this direction at a time like this. Maybe about 15 years ago, I was in the United Kingdom, and at that time, because I have young children who were in the secondary school, so I told, one good thing about those kind of systems is the flexibility of the system. So I took some time and I approached somebody that I want to even see what the secondary school structure looks like in the United Kingdom, since I want to put my children in the school. And then they gave me the opportunity to interact with students, I think for 1 month. And in the course of the interaction, I learned something that I believe is important for our discussion today, or in our discussion today. While you are not able to discipline students the way we normally do here in Nigeria, you cannot ask students to kneel down, close your eyes. You cannot send students out of the class if he's misbehaving, because they will tell you when will the person learn if you send him out of the classroom. So you have to continue to devise means of calming the students so that you can do your teaching. So one day I had this group of students that were just making noise. And then from somewhere I just got this reasoning that, look, while you have the right to do whatever you feel like doing, because they will tell you I have the right to, I have the right to, I have the right to. So you have the right to do whatever. But there are people in this class who also have the right to learning. And your right must not breach the right of another person. So when we talk about human rights, I believe at this event today, we will know when our right is beginning to disturb the right of another person. Because in as much as I have a right to, I have a right to, other people also have rights to some other things. And in the system, if our system will move forward, we must have a balanced right system. Otherwise, this one will pursue a right. Somebody is dressed half naked and he has a right to dress anyhow because he owns his body. But I also have a right to decorum, to what my senses will behold. So we must have a balanced right system. I don't understand how it will happen, but I believe that in the discourse of today, we must hear things that will let us know when we can actually accost somebody that your right is disturbing my right. I may not be able to wait till the end, but I will plead that the paper that will be presented, I will have a copy, because I actually want to be educated on how to address the issue of somebody's right affecting another person's right when those kind of issues arise. I believe that everybody here will come with some form of jotters, but I know that there are some of us that our brain can jot even more than our pen. So whatever we can take home from here, but as an academic community, we cannot have this type of lectures and it will not leave a long-lasting impact on us as individuals. I want to thank and congratulate the FUTA ASUU community for organizing this program. If people knew the depth of what they can gain in this type of meeting, I believe many more people will have availed themselves of the opportunity of learning at a time like this, when we have our elders here willing to share part of their experiences with us. I thank you all for coming, and I wish us fruitful deliberations. Thank you.
Thank you, Comrade Prof, for that goodwill message. While she was giving the goodwill message and the experience she once had, I know a lot of us were flowing and we are following her. We also have among us the chairman of the occasion, Comrade Professor Abori Shade. The keynote speaker, Comrade Professor Aborishade. Thank you, sir. While Comrade Professor Adenike Oladiji was giving her speech, her goodwill message, some of our professors came in. The Dean Student Affairs, Comrade Professor D.E. Oke, D.O. Oke. Then Comrade Professor S.A. Anjorin. Thank you, sir. We will want to call on the convener, Comrade Rasaki, to come and give us the convener's welcome address.
Good morning, comrades. I want to welcome everybody to this lecture. First and foremost, we have to thank God for giving us the opportunity of scheduling this program and it take come to a reality. Also, I want to thank the university, appreciate the university administration, ably represented by our amiable, dynamic Vice Chancellor, Professor Adenike Oladiji. Because when we are discussing about space, initially we thought we are suggesting multipurpose and some more, but it was about 2 days ago that the administration graciously approved the use of this venue. Yes, about the program. If you could recollect, the civil society group and the civil society and human rights group has been in the forefront of agitation for a better Nigeria, starting from the colonial era to when we got our independence in 1960. Well, let me capture a song that is popular. The program is about what we call Ewo Lewo. Ewo lewo, ewo lewo, ewo lewo, ewo lewo. Òyìnbó lọ tán o, bàlé wá dé, bàlé wá lọ tán o, ìrósì dé, ìrósì lọ tán o, gòwánú dé, gòwánú lọ tán o, Mùrítàlá, Mùrítàlá lọ tán o, Ọbásanjọ́, Ọbásanjọ́ lọ tán o, Ṣàgàrí wọlé, Ṣàgàrí lọ tán o, Buhari wọlé. Buhari wọlé o, Babangida. Something this moment. But it has been a struggle from one administration to the other. And the pathetic ones are those under the terrible military era. In the first instance, 13 years from the overthrow of Balewa to Shagari period, 13 years. After that, Maradonic us for several years. After that, we struggled to get democracy. And during the June 12 struggle, it was the civil rights society and the human rights group that are in the forefront struggle to make sure that democracy is entrenched in this country. However, since 1999 that we had the democracy, we should not forget the struggle of people like Chief Gani Fawemi, Chief Femi Falana, the Bagalo Kato, and some other people, and some other people that fought for this democracy, including the present people that they are calling themselves the beneficiary of our struggle. But since that 2009 and 1999, I don't think we have experienced the struggle that we fought for. But, well, we have to continue to appraise ourselves and to chart a way forward. That's the essence of this lecture. Because it's the attainment of independence, democracy in 1999. From our observation, the people that fought for this enthronement of democracy, I don't think they have common front again. Many have maybe joined the whatever, because of whatever reason they. But it's like when you fight a fight and the battle is won. But like they said, what we have is civilian government, not democracy. Until we have democracy, we are people's voice. You know what? When you are having 10,000, before it was rigging. People will rig the election, the right figure, but now it is 10,000 naira, 5,000 naira, and all this. People are keeping quiet. So that's why we said we should engage ourselves on this issue. And that is the reason why the civil rights and human rights group think that it is necessary to engage ourselves and appraise the democracy from 1999 to date. So I welcome everybody to this occasion. Thank you.
Thank you, Comrade Dr. Rasaki. While Comrade Dr. Rasaki was giving his convener's address, I know he went down the Union Lane, and a lot of us are not surprised because he has been a member of the National Secretariat of ASUU for only God knows when. He has been there for a very long time. Also well seated among us is Comrade Professor M.I.S. Oyibo. You are welcome, sir. We want to call on Comrade Professor P.A. Aborishade to give us the keynote address.
My Vice Chancellor, Comrade Vice Chancellor, I guess. Yes. Comrade Vice Chancellor. My comrade from long ago. I keep forgetting that you are now in Ekiti. Nice to have you with us. My comrade chair and my comrade resource person, distinguished comrades of the Federal University of Technology, Akure, the women and men with whom we have gone through a whole lot. And we have always emerged victorious. And we will continue to emerge victorious. I was glad to have been invited to give this talk. I told Comrade Razak the convener of the Human Rights Committee, that I wanted this to be more of a discussion than a lecture. But I prepared the lecture itself. However, within it, I'm going to be posting questions and asking for your reactions. Because I believe that's the way we can benefit and take something away. Very often, we give lectures, and by the time you exit the door, you've forgotten most of what we discussed. Because it's one person that is actually saying all in his head. And even when you disagree, you don't have an opportunity to say so. This is one in which you have an opportunity to say you disagree. And you can't disagree. Because that's what academics is all about. We agree, we disagree, we come together in the end to agree on the way forward. So this morning I'm going to be looking at the roles. I can tell you the grammar the committee put in that letter was far too complicated for me to understand. So I reduced it to my own level. So I'm looking at the roles of civil society organizations and human rights organizations in sustainable democracy. Of course, I'm going to provoke. I prefer that way. And that's the one way by which I can get your own reactions too. By provoking you to think about these issues. And when we do think about the issues together, we will be able to chart our way forward. Human rights and democracy. Human rights are universal. They are not limited to the West. They are not limited to the democracy of the West. The West does not own democracy. Every culture in the world has the democratic culture. They have their own ethos. There are aspects of democratic ethos that differ from place to place. And that is the reason the world came together after the Second World War to say, let's have a unified code by which we can talk about human rights. Within the codes, you can then go back home and expand. But don't reduce from the code. So the journey this morning is to see whether the democracies around the world are keeping to these codes that we all came together to put together for ourselves. So human rights are at the core of every democracy, and you are going to see it. So when some people get up and say, oh, they don't have democracy, they are contravening human rights. tell them, what is your own understanding of democracy? What's your understanding of human rights? Are you sure that the goals you are uplifting are the same as that to which we all agreed? So, the human rights from all over the world are culturally derived, which include religious morality. And all religions, all, don't let anybody deceive you that there is only one religion that upholds human rights. What you uphold in your religion would differ, just as what I uphold in my culture would differ from yours. And there are evidences, loads and loads of evidences we are going to look at today. How every democracy in the world has infringed on the code that we all agreed. So where did they get their own from? So all forms of democratic rights also derive from human rights. Here is a timeline of the evolution of human rights. In ancient times, around 500 BCE, Greek, because they are the ones who wrote down their own history anyway, that's why we are referring to them. Okay? Written history is what we are dealing with today. We cannot deal with all the other cultures that have not written down the way they lived. So Greek and Roman philosophers discuss natural law. That is the law of nature and justice. Religious texts promote dignity, moral duties. And I ask anyone who believes that there's a religion that does not to prove me wrong. Medieval period, around 1215, the Magna Carta was signed in England. That became the very first written code on human rights. And that limited the king's power. As we know, the monarchy, all over the world, aggregate all powers because they say they are divine. The Lord sent them to rule over all of you, and therefore they have all the powers to do and undo. And early legal rights as well. Then came the Enlightenment. I thought I heard somebody introduce Professor Yim.
Yes.
You see that?
Yes.
Oh, they are the philosophers who can elaborate so much about all of these, the different ages of how we get to where we are. So the Enlightenment around 1600 to 1700. John Locke, Professor Oyinbo's friend, promoted natural rights, the right to life, the right to liberty, Around 1776, the US Declaration of Independence, they came with a quote that everybody has been mouthing all over. All men are created equal. Yet, they were the same ones who led in slavery. They did not think black people were created equal. Okay? So this is the way it goes. And in 1789, French Declaration of the Rights of Man and Citizen was also enacted. 19th century, around 1833, slavery was abolished on the basis of human rights, gladly, and because of agitations, protests, demonstrations all over. Not because they felt in their heart of hearts. They didn't. Many people wanted to continue. Okay? Even, I'm sure there are many Anglicans here. Justin Welby, who just stepped down as Archbishop of Canterbury, his family was involved in slave trade. He apologized after he was put under a lot of pressure a few years ago. So, I mean, that just to tell you that it's not limited to one place, it's everywhere. So, slavery was also abolished in the US, and then the rise of early women's and labor rights movements. Women were never regarded as equals with men. So when an Oyibona tells you you are maltreating a woman in Africa, tell them we were all there together. Now we see better. We know that men and women were created equal. That women have as much intellect as men. And all together, we can all contribute to the development of mankind and to our planet. Today now we know that. We didn't know that before. We didn't think about that before. So that's the way it's going. And of course we know that in the 20th century there are wars. First World War and then the Second World War. The Second World War was the turning point. That was the war that put an end to the Holocaust of Jews in Europe. So the same people who were shouting about this, about that, thought that you did not belong to the Aryan race. You are inferior. It is not just about white. Even amongst white, there are discriminations. The Aryan race was supposed to be the... So, that was it. And then by 1948, after the League of Nations and then United Nations, was the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, the UDHR, that was adopted by all countries that were there then. And post 1948, there were expansions. 1966, international human rights covenants were written and agreed and signed. 1979, Convention on Women's Rights were coded. And 1989, Convention on the Rights of the Child. And 1990s, up to today, we've been talking about digital rights. Don't put yourself in that closet that you're going to have digital rights anytime soon. All the service providers have just increased their rates far beyond what you earn. So you don't have that right yet. You have to fight for it. Disability rights, indigenous rights, and so on and so forth. We are still coding and recoding some of these rights. And it will go on like that. So, the categories of human rights. And this is why when I said democratic rights rely, and as they have at their center human rights, you will see what I mean in the various categories of human rights. So here we have civil and political rights. Right to life and personal security, freedom from torture and slavery, right to a fair trial and fair hearing, freedom of speech, religion and assembly, right to vote and participate in government. It is not just right to vote, it's also right to participate in government. As we are going to see, when they are talking about who has democracy, who doesn't have democracy, as if it's something you put in your pocket and take out, the emphasis is always on the right to vote and multi-party system. That has become the code for the West. Right to vote. If you are not voting and you say you have a leader, they say you don't have democracy. If you are voting and you have just one party, they say you don't have democracy. But if you vote for a party and a candidate wins, they overlook the right to participate in government. Which is the key when we are talking about democracy. You can have demonstrations all over the street one whole year, and they will say, well, you are exercising your right of speech, right of assembly, but those of us in government will exercise our right to not listen to you. Whereas that code emphasizes right to vote and to participate in government. So when people come up with policies and they call a meeting in one state, Akure, and they gather together in a hall like this, and they invite a few groups of people, and they ask you to talk, and you talk and talk and talk. At the end of the day, they go away. They write what they want to write. They've listened to you. What more do you want? Meanwhile, the majority of the people, even amongst the few that were assembled, are opposed to that policy. But that's the policy they've decided they're going to work. And that's what they go ahead with. So, it is the same all over the world. Don't let anybody deceive you that they have democracy and you don't have it. Yes, you can grade democracy on percentages. So if Nigeria has, say, 30%, South Africa has 50%, another country has 60%. It's a gradation, but it doesn't mean that you don't have democracy. There are ingredients of democracy, and these are some of the ingredients of democracy we are talking about. Economic, social, and cultural rights, right to work, and fair wages. Fair wages. Fair wages, oh. How many of you are earning fair wages? Okay, àwa ló kàn. So, right to education. Right. Education is a right. It's not a privilege. It's a right. But they write it into your constitution that they will give you education free from primary to secondary only. Go to any primary school. If your parents can't pay its own, the child is home. Secondary school has been sold to private sector. If you want your child to be educated, you have to send them to good private schools. The public ones are almost totally useless. Yet, there's right to education, right to health care, right to social security. Where is it? Right to an adequate standard of living, an adequate standard of living. Then rights of specific groups, children's rights, women's rights, rights of persons with disability, minority and indigenous people's rights, rights of refugees, and asylum seekers. Europe, America, they are refusing asylum seekers. But we get to that as well. You go to their countries, you go and bomb them in their countries. They escape. They want to move to where there is some level of security. You then say, asylum seekers are not welcome. But you are the same one bombing their countries. This is the world in which we live. Collective or solidarity rights. Right to development. Everyone is entitled to it. Right to self-determination, right to a clean and healthy environment, right to peace, right to humanitarian assistance. There are instances we are going to be making references to. Now, human rights infractions by date and region. These are just a few, very, very few of the infractions, just to illustrate what is going on in every region of the world. In Africa, we all remember reading about the 1994 Rwandan genocide. The Tutsis and the Hutus. 1980s to 2000, the Sudan Darfur conflict, where blacks, who are all supposed to be Arabs anyway, were being massacred in Sudan, which was termed as ethnic cleansing and which are war crimes. Then 2000s, well, I've added this because I went on to add a number of others that were not added in the codes that you are going to find in the books and online. But I let these ones. The Zimbabwean case, where they claim there are state violence, land seizures under Mugabe. But in here, they would never explain that the lands had been seized by whites who colonized the country that then became Zimbabwe. And after independence, there were attempts to take back the land. The arable, the fertile lands have been taken. More than 90% of the land belonged to just a few white people. So, well, but yes, the way and manner by which this was undertaken also contravened the rights of some of those individuals. So it's also included. In Asia, this was also listed in 1989, the Tiananmen Square massacre of so-called democracy protesters. And I'm emphasizing this because, as has been revealed this year, just this year, when Trump won and came to power, it has now been revealed that every country where you have US aid, that is the agency they use to overthrow governments. Most of the people who work in US aid are CIA agents. And they pump a lot of money into those countries through that agency to destabilize a government that does not do what they want. So when you hear democracy protesters, they want democracy, they want democracy. We have a good example in Africa anyway. We'll come to it. 1965 to 66, Indonesia, mass killings of up to 1 million suspected communists. Also engineered by the United States of America, where nobody must mention the word communist. And it's ongoing right now. They say the Uyghur persecution and mass detention in Xinjiang in China. China has thrown the door open to say there is no persecution that is going on. The Uyghurs are Muslims. They migrated and they are giving them reorientation training, education, and technological training. But the West must show that China, Russia, Eastern Europe, Africa, they are communists. That is what is going on. If it is true, I don't know. I've watched a number of documentaries that have been disputed, and they say that's what's going on. Then Myanmar, the Rohingya ethnic cleansing that is going on. Myanmar is still embroiled in it today. Then the Americas. And when we say the Americas, we are talking about North America, Central America, South America. There was in 70s to 80s the Operation Condor, state terror across South America. Why? I'll give you an example. Bolivia. Bolivia has a very fragile economy, has always had. And what did they do? They were growing one plant. What's the name of the plant? I can't remember now. But that plant is what they use to produce cocaine. And when they produce cocaine, it's off to the US. The cocaine users are there in the US. And every country that participates in that, America will go and bomb the farms. There were then, of course, drug cartels exporting and smuggling the things to the US. Well, this is 50 minutes, right? Dr. Seni, 50 minutes. Okay, we'll go on. We'll go on. So, they then said, okay, bring something else for us to plant that will yield as much as what we are making. It came to the point, and that is why when you look at the history of what goes on in South America, Central America, South America, when America is shouting, asylum seekers are at the border, we must keep them out. But you kept bombing their countries. Drug cartels are taking over the governments. So what do you want the people to do? So they are all moving towards the US. So they tell them, stop your economic war on our countries, and our people will stay where they are. That's it. So Central America too, civil wars with massacres, disappearances. This gives you, people compiled it. In the Americas, military coups. US-backed military coups. All of them in that list. So, El Salvador, Guatemala, Cuba. Cuba is a very interesting country. Very interesting. Because Cuba is communist. Cuba has the highest rate of educated citizens in the world. Higher than that of the US. In any case, today, US citizens they can hardly read. Health in Cuba is one of the best in the world. I have two people who had just returned from Cuba a few months ago for health issues. They sent doctors to Africa. They sent doctors to everywhere, and they give scholarships to train people in medicine. Yet they are poor. How are they poor? America has blockaded Cuba. The UN has voted more than 10 times. If you trade with Cuba, America is going to come after you. They have their resources. They want to trade. But they said, no, you cannot. And since Second World War, these are the number of countries, some of them 2-3 times, where the United States has intervened in their politics, killed hundreds and millions of people, taking their rights completely from them. It's a list, it's a long list. Professor Jeffrey Sachs, a professor at the University of Columbia in the US, was asked, why is America after China? He says, but it's obvious. America is going down, China is going up. And China is the second largest population in the world after India. India just overtook China when they started one family, one child, to depress the population. But the kind of things that are going on, well, it has come up now. Trump has come up and said he's placing tariff on China 104%. And I heard China said, you are just a joke. We foresaw this long ago and planned ahead. And we are ready for you. Because, as I read, 20% of Chinese GDP, only about 20% of this, is dependent on external export. And less than 15% goes to the US. I used to fear because consumption is in the US and they make a lot of money from there. And if your economy is dependent on exporting to the US and the US says you can no longer do so, you are finished. But China foresaw that long ago. They've reduced, diversified. They started the ASEAN, Asian countries economic zone. And you are all trading, just as we ought to do in Africa among ourselves. So right now, only God knows what. But I was listening to the news as I was putting finishing touches to this. When Trump announced the things, all stock exchanges around the world collapsed. By yesterday, the Chinese stock exchange had gained 0.9%. It's on the rise again. The same thing with Hong Kong, which China also controls. But all over the US, all his friends, even Elon Musk, now sees he's in trouble. More than 30 billion has been wiped off his wealth because of the collapse. But that's something else. In Europe, the Bosnian War, which is also ethnic cleansing and Srebrenica genocide, the Holocaust, of course, Nazi extermination of 6 million Jews, and all of that. Then the Middle East, this is the boiling pot. That is where the oil and gas of the world is. And you know what? The population is very small. They have vast wealth in terms of these resources. Europe and America can keep their eyes and their hands away. So most of the human rights infractions you have in the Middle East are engineered from the democracies of America and Europe. 1953, the US and the UK planned a coup in Iran. The same Iran they keep shouting about. They planned a coup. And that was what led to the 1979 Islamic Revolution in Iran. The monarch, the children of the monarch, they are there in the US now. They want to come back to come and take over the government, but they dare not. Syria, actually it was Obama that engineered the crisis in Syria. And the same group, they said they were going to fight in Syria, ISIS and Al-Qaeda. Remember, ISIS and Al-Qaeda were formed by the United States. The same people. The leader of Syria today, Al-Julani, who has now changed his name, was beheading people in Syria. He was the same person that was now armed to go and chase Assad out. Yes, I mean, Assad is not a saint. I'm not saying anybody is. But we are looking at the human rights and the rights of peoples to determine how they live, how they are governed. And this is what we are talking about. And then the NATO war crimes in Libya. We remember Libya. The same Obama and Hillary Clinton killed Gaddafi. Why? He wanted to unite Africa. He was proposing an alternative currency to the dollar. They could never have allowed that. But that's happening now, anyway. Then the NATO war crimes in Afghanistan. America occupied Afghanistan for 20 years. What is the outcome? Is there democracy in Afghanistan now after 20 years of occupation? No. The Taliban's are back. They drove them out. NATO war crimes in Iraq. US and Europe and the allies armed Iraq, Saddam Hussein, to fight Iran. Iran defeated Iraq, and all the chemical weapons they gave to Saddam Hussein, which he did not use. They then came back to say they were looking for chemical weapons in Iraq. But Saddam Hussein had destroyed them. So Tony Blair, Bush in America, they all agreed to go on, and they killed over 1 million Iraqis for that. So, human rights and democracy is what we are talking about. Then the American-Saudi war crimes in Yemen poor country, one of the poorest countries in the world. But their war hardened. Then American Abu Ghraib, 20 minutes. Oh, 10 minutes. Thank you. Prison in Iraq. Crackdowns on protests, executions, blah, 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 blah. Then ongoing right now, the Israel-American genocide in Gaza and West Bank. Ongoing. Daily. Killings, beheading children, burning women. Intense. That's going on right now as we speak. As of this morning, 11 people have been killed, bombed from the air, because they couldn't go in to go and fight Hamas and the other groups there. So that's the picture of the Middle East, the Gaza war. You will read all of that. And then in human rights infractions in Nigeria. Again, just a few of them. If you look at education, if you look at health, if you look at the labor and all of that, you have many, many, many more. I can't list enough. Absolutely impossible. Then I ask the question, is it right is right, or might is right? What is your answer? From what we have said, all the infractions we have mentioned, is it right is right, or might is right? Might is not right, but that is what. So if you look at Africa, is the economy. That's why they came slave trade, to cut away the young people who are very strong. You Africans are very strong. You can work in any condition. We need you in the plantations. And when some people got together and said this thing must stop, the next thing was to colonize. And after colonization, what? New colonization. 2023, before the election, 2022-23, before the elections in Nigeria, all the three major presidential candidates went to the UK in London, Chatham House, to present their policies for endorsement. That's what it is. So if you now cry that petrol subsidy has been removed, this is coming, they are presenting to their masters and the pastors are approved. So why are you crying? That's what we are talking about. Asia, the same thing. Right, might is right. In virtually every case, might is right. So, what manner of democracy are we talking about? Dr. Oseni, I need just 2 minutes. Is it liberal democracy? The oligarchs are in power right now in Nigeria. It's Tinubu Awalokan and his cronies. You don't have a part. You played your part. You went and voted. Once you voted, it's finished. You are not invited to come and participate in governance. But that is the way it is, even in the ones that we call advanced democracies. They are the ones who teach them what to do. It's capitalist. And when we say it's capitalist, we know what we are talking about. Accumulation of capital. When Nigerians, and I trust our middle class in Nigeria, Those of them who went to read economics and read also those things, they come and tell, we are looking for, what do they call it? Foreign direct investment. You have investment in the people on the streets. They don't matter. Somebody has stolen money from the Middle East by pumping and is bringing the money here to come and excavate your minerals and your oil. That's foreign direct investment. And when they come with that money and they are taking 100% of it out, you don't know. They share it among themselves and they lack it that allow them to come in here. So it's laissez-faire. Laissez-faire is individualism. So let individuals develop. They have talents. They are the ones who will employ. You have the good example, Elon Musk. He's employing so many engineers. Recently he fought with his engineers and many of them quit at Tesla. And to let you know, Tesla is produced in China. It's not produced in the US. Apple, iPhone, produced in China. So when Trump is talking about tariff, those tariffs will hit Tesla, they will hit iPhone. Those of you in Nigeria who love iPhone so much, we are all the same, whether it's iPhone or Samsung. Yeah, it's the same one now. It's two things. Okay, but that's the way it is. So people sell their labor for a wage. And we are not talking about fair wage, for any wage, to keep body and soul together, to be able to go on and sell it further and further. And competition for goods and services. Competition, you are in competition. You go and kill. You break each other's heads to get fuel. Or you want a socialist democracy. But Americans will tell you socialism, communists don't have democracy. Of course, China does. Cuba does. They have one party. But there is competition within the one party. This our community here. You vote somebody to go and represent you. From there they go and represent at the in Akure. From there they go and represent in Abuja. That's how it goes. So there is competition for positions. There is voting. But they want to know that they don't vote because they don't have conservative or Labour or what the other one, Republican and the Democrat Party. So that's the way it is. Here is the oligarchy of the people. From each according to their capacity, and to each according to their needs. Not wants, needs. God has blessed the world for all that He created to meet everybody's needs, but not everybody's wants. Because when it comes to wants, I can look at Professor Akiboye here and say, this your head is very fine. Oh. I should be able to eat a part of it. That's my want. But do I need it? No, I don't. But when I'm filled up with all sorts of things and I don't know what else to do, I want to eat a human being for fun. That's what you don't get. Here is Ubuntu. Who has been in South Africa here? Aha. You know what Ubuntu is? You are because we are. Your want, your need does not supersede ours. In us, you are great. Without us, you are nothing. That's what we are talking about. Collective ownership of markets. People put in their labor for productivity. It is cooperation in production and in distribution. So, roles for CSOs and HRLs, advocacy and awareness raising, legal support and litigation, monitoring and reporting, protection and support services, community mobilization and empowerment, policy influence and law reform, and international partnerships and pressure. And the final, by the time you have done this, you will see a need to come together to ensure that it's the people's power that supersedes, not any local. It should be our local. Thank you very much.
If we give Comrade Prof 2 hours, I know it will not be sufficient yet. Because Comrade Prof is loaded. We call him Baba Olori Ebi for a reason. Thank you, sir. While our keynote address was going on, we have some important dignitaries that came in. Among them is Barrister Victor Olatoyebu, representing Liberty and Right Advisory Organization. Please come to the right, sir. We also have Comrade Omoraka AE, representing NATS. Please come to the right table. And then we have Comrade Professor Tony Odiwe, Chairman ASUU. Please come to the high table. We have Comrade Professor Simon Oke, Dean Slit, and former Vice Chair FUTA. Please come to the high table, sir. We also have Comrade Professor Awodele, Director DAP FUTA. Please come to the high table. Among other dignitaries that are seated here is Comrade Professor Oyetayo Biho, Comrade Professor Bola Oniya, PC, FUTA branch, Comrade Professor B. Adeyemi, Comrade Professor J.R. Adewumi, former Secretary ASUU and Chairman University Admission Committee, Comrade Egun Jobi, former Secretary SANU. You are all welcome, sir. We want to call on Comrade Professor A.S. Ajiboye to give the introduction of the guest speaker.
Good afternoon, before the high table. Good afternoon, fellow comrades. It's a great honor to have to introduce the guest speaker. The guest speaker is a person that is well known to me, the person of Professor Depo Ajayi. Professor Depo Ajayi is a human rights activist. And we call him Warlord because he has been in the trenches for ages and is very good at that. Professor Depo Ajayi was born on the 9th of October 1956 at Ado-Ekiti, Ekiti State. He attended primary schools in many places, Akure, Lagos, Benin, because his parents were civil servants and they were moving from places to places. He attended the Amoye Grammar School in Kerek. Amoye Grammar School in Kerek from 1969 to 1972. For his tertiary education, he went to the University of Ibadan where he studied agronomy, and he also went to the University of Ibadan for his master's degree and his PhD, which he obtained in 1987. His area of specialization is soil physics. His work experience, he worked as Liberian assistant at OAU Ife between 1974 and 1975, School of Adult Education, University of Ibadan, between 1981 and 1985. He also worked as scriptwriter, Operation Feed the Nation, for the Federal Radio Corporation of Nigeria. Between 1990 and 1991, he anchored a weekly TV program on agriculture on NTA Ilorin. He entered the employment of the University of Ilorin in 1984 and was there up to 2001 when he was sacked as one of the 49 academic lecturers who were sacked by the authority of the university because they participated in the national strike of the union. So you can see that he has been in the trenches for a very long time. He joined the services of the Ekiti State University, Ado-Ekiti, in 2006 and has remained there up to today. He became a professor in the year 2015. During the course of his career, he was part of many programs in some organizations. One of them was being a backup scientist in soil physics at the IITA Ibadan. He was the resource person for Kwara ADP Ilorin in 1998 to 2014. He was the resource person for Kogi ADP Lokoja from 1995 to 2007. He was a research person for World Bank 1992 to 1994. And he was a consultant soil physics, World Bank, 1992 to 1994, and a resource scientist, FAO role, from 1997 to 2000. He was a member of the National Research Project on Cassava Intercropping, Umuki. He is also a member of various land-made bodies in agriculture, erosion, soil, and water studies. He published 2 books and over 40 publications in local and international journals. Professor Depo Ajayi is married and has 3 boys. His hobby is reading and traveling. I can testify to that hobby of reading. Professor Depo Ajayi is very versatile. In many subjects, he's at the top. Whether you're talking of religion, philosophy, history, politics, Professor Depo Ajayi is on top of his game. I'm very sure today you are going to enjoy his lecture. So it gives me great pleasure to call on Professor Depo Ajayi to give his first lecture.
ladies and gentlemen, can you to stand on the existing protocol so that we can have the work at hand done on time. Like the keynote speaker said, I can understand now the topic very well. When I was contacted, I was told it's going to be a symposium, and I will be just one of the speakers. So I sketched a few things down. It was only on Saturday that I was told that I'm going to give it into a lecture. So between Saturday and now, I have to develop it into a full lecture. And that was why you cannot see me presenting it in the form in which our Olori did it. But all the same, we are going to enjoy it. Olori spoke on the roles of CSO in democracy and the move around the world. You will not be surprised that we have overlapping information. And of course, that is what a symposium is supposed to be. You are supposed to look at different aspects of that topic and come out with your own findings. But when I was told that it's now going to be a full lecture, then I have to look at the topic holistically. And in looking at the topic holistically, I encompassed some of the things that he has gone through. Secondly, I must commend tremendously the organizers of this event for choosing that topic. There is no time in human history that topic is very, very relevant than now. Things that we thought were impossible before, they are getting possible in our eyes. And before I go on to elaborate on that, I will quote from Charles Dickens in that his famous book, A Tale of Two Cities. I quote, very short paragraph because of time. It was the best of times. It was the worst of times. It was the age of wisdom. It was the age of foolishness. It was the epoch of belief. It was the epoch of incredulity. It was the season of light. It was the season of darkness. No other, I will quote, no other description captures the moment in which we are in. Because the whole thing is turning in such a way that we cannot understand. It has often been said, and that is what Olori presented, the intervention of America in virtually all countries of the world. And that's why it is said that when America seizes, the rest of the world catches cold. The era of the President Trump in the USA is affecting the world order. And students of history will recollect that trade wars was the preparatory background to World War II. President Trump has started the trade war, and the response to this is retaliatory tariffs by different countries. In fact, he has succeeded in uniting the rest of the world against America. And like I was saying, that about the tariff, Butch Edward in 1934 Act, asked that American tariffs be raised for virtually all costs. He didn't ask this on his own. It was the farmers that demanded it, that they wanted protection for their produce. And he did it. And then the thing started escalating. Tensions in virtually every country, because technology was not advanced as this. Hunger and tension before the whole thing boomeranged. And before you know it, the Second World War started, which was started in 1939. So we don't know where this present situation is going on to. See, it was when what is happening now that I started to value and appreciate the Nigerian civil society organizations. Whoever believes here that America can be captured under the index of one man the way it is today, I don't think that person existed. He has signed over $100, many of them violated the Constitution. He has even said that any judge that gives judgment against him, he should be impeached, and they are ready to do that. Not only that, any lawyer or firm of lawyer that takes him to court and win, that law firm should be sanctioned. So what you are having there is just the rule of one man. And how, in a country where the civil rule, the civil society organization developed. So like I was trying to say, I will look through this issue from three perspectives. We talk about the origins of the civil service society and the human rights development. Then we will go specifically to the roles of the civil societies in Nigeria. And that again is divided into three parts. That is the pre-colonial era, the civilian era, and also the military era. And then we go specifically to the roles, to whatever we can do in accordance with the topic, to stretch it and to make the civil service society more robust in such a way that they can withstand the trend of events that is to come. All other countries are quiet and they are looking at as if nothing is happening. Every nation is now, the rulers of every nation is now planning on how to be there to perpetuate themselves forever. Authoritarianism. And that means more work and more duties for our civil society organization. Before we go into that, I will go into the quotation of Paul Freire in his book, Pedagogy of the Oppressed. He gave the following advice to those who intend to lead the populace in any capacity. Such people, Freire advised to have the following: the virtues of valor, courage, dedication, devotion, integrity, and perseverance. No civil society organization can survive if the leaders are deficient in these virtues that we have mentioned. And I hope the civil society leaders that are here will also have that in mind. Now we go on to the historical review of CSO, which our Olori has done some work about. The origin, from what I read in literature, of the human rights organization and the civil society. What is civil society? The role of the civil society is to act against bad governance, to preserve the rights of the individual in any country. And of course, if you look at that, the Nigerian civil society have tried their best, even under the military, to uphold this duty. We have, as present, a very restrictive democracy. Of course, you know what our elections are. It's a shambles. And it's just a shade better than sortition, which was practiced in ancient Athens in Greece. And sortition is just by way of casting lot to see anybody without in the street going. You bring him to a committee of elders. Can this one be a judge? And you say, yes, he can be a judge. And that is it. Our own is selection, in which case, either you like it or not, once it belongs to the mainstream of the party, it goes on. And despite all the flaws of ASUU indirectly is a party to the present mess. You remember after the Obasanjo regime, there was a committee to review election and to see that we have election reforms in the country. Jega, our own Jega, the former national president of ASUU, was the chairman of that committee. And they made very beautiful recommendations. One of the recommendations that they made, and which was very, very significant, was that the leadership of INEC should not be done by the president. What happened? After they have collected it and they said it and the government said it is okay, they employed Jega as the chairman of INEC and he took it. ASUU is a very principled organization, but then we are all human beings and there is no perfect human being. And that is what we will show, especially in the life of those who has brought human rights, civil society, agitations into our being. We had it in history that agitation for people's rights and collective welfare is a selfless duty and is stemmed from two origins. The Hammurabi Code, which is otherwise known as Lex Talionis, the law of retribution, an eye of an eye for an eye. If two people are equal and one will, break the bones of the one, then the other person was subjected himself to his own bone to be broken. And therefore, do justice to each person. Another foundation of this was from the golden rule as enacted in the Bible. Do unto others what you want others to do unto you. Yes, the Buddhists have said it before. So many other religions have said it before. In fact, the first organized religion, which came out in Siberia, they have also said it before. But basically, all religions have said that we should do unto others what we want others to do. And if they are not doing unto others what they are doing to you, you have a duty and a conscience to protect the other fellow man, especially the weaker party. So it went on during their era, even up to the time of Plato. Up to the time of Plato, Aristotle, Socrates, they are the people who said Socrates died because of his love for the average Athenians. He will gather people and will tell them, these are the things that you should do, these are the things that you should do. And they challenged him. He was brought to the court to even recount some of those things. He refused because he knew it was for the betterment of the people. It condemned totally democracy, that democracy eventually will lead to autocracy. Who knows that this man was talking of about almost 300, 400, 500 years from now. Democracy as of today, in virtually every country, including Nigeria, is turned into autocracy. Because right from the beginning of this, our own democracy, from Obasanjo to Yar'Adua and so on, it has been one-man show. When the president gets there, he gets all the powers in this world, and nobody can challenge him. And that was what Socrates foresaw. And that was what made his pupil, Aristotle, to suggest, okay, if it is that bad, then can't we go by way of sortition? And that is by random picking and putting people into position. Before we graduated to this level of selection, all that we have. So the human right has been like that. And when you know at Socrates, Aristotle, and the rest of them, they are people of high morality. Then we go to the age of enlightenment, in which our brother talked about. Of course, every philosopher knows that Thomas Paine is known as the prince of that particular age. He was the one who canvassed very vociferously the rights of man. We have John Locke in Britain, you have Arrête Voltaire in France, Jean-Jacques Rousseau in France. Arrête Voltaire and Jean-Jacques Rousseau played very critical role in the revolution that liberated France. Because if you look into the other, especially if you Google it, Arrête is placed as number 3 in affecting that revolution, while Jacques Rousseau is placed as number 1. These are people of very high integrity and of high morals. These people advocated for natural rights, and it is these natural rights that Thomas Paine started off in America when they were still under the colonial rule. He challenged and constantly preaching against abuse of power, and he was banished to Britain. He came to Britain and he took on one member of the house. It was that interaction between Thomas Paine and that house member that he put into that book, The Rights of Man.
Of course, he wrote another book after that, which is Common Sense, and that was very, very critical of the Bible. And because of the religious atmosphere in Britain at that time, they banished him into France. But from France, he was welcomed back to America as one of the heroes of the Republic. Now, we have that age. When that age finished, it moved down to the era of slavery and the abolitionists. And one of those byproducts of that product was the underground rail, which was led by Harriet Tubman, a woman. Why we are studying these people is that when you look at their qualities, the way they lead, it will guide our civil society to adopt some. The tactics are not the same for each battle and for each struggle. Harriet Tubman was instrumental in taking people away from the south to the north through an illegal route, which is referred to as the Underground Rail. She was a woman of courage and a woman of intelligence. Between 1850 and 1860, when she operated, she freed about 70 people. This woman, all he did was to find roads in which these slaves can pass without being identified. And when they knew, the white authorities, they were sending sniffer dogs to them to attack the people and the rest of it. So he spoke in coded language. And that coded language, one of the songs and in coded language, there were two famous ones of his songs. The first one, which is a dialing of American spiritual, American spiritual, we call it, African American spiritual. That is Wade in the Water. It was a coded message that when these people are coming, when you now give the water, wade in the water, go into the water so that your perfume, whatever the sniffer dogs can use to identify you, you get it. Wade in the water, wade in the water, children, wade in the water. God's gonna trouble the water. That song has a foundation in the Holy Bible. It's in John chapter 5, and then verses something to 29. I think it's in my write-up. So it was that song, and at another time, when that one was getting too popular and those people were getting loaded, he changed it to "Come down, Moses." Moses, come down. If you want to enjoy this, go and listen to the music of Louis Armstrong, the jazz expert. You will enjoy it so much. And these are the things that he used. Between those 10 years, he was able to liberate 70 men to the north, just a woman. Then you have also the Boston Tea Party. The Boston Tea Party was the one that fought against the British. It started when workers finished. They come in the afternoon like this, and then they started to talk over a tea party. And it was there that the anti-colonialism, that look, why must we continue to be under the British? And people took it up from there. And that reminded me of what Chairman Mao said to the Communist Party in 1948. He said, a spark can cause a prairie fire. When you are in Agric, you know what a prairie fire is. It's fire that burns thousands of kilometers. But just a spark can cause it. And that is exactly what the Tea Party was. So they started up, and that means that even in overturning or changing the government for the better, the environment does not necessarily have to be too elaborate. It can be like in informal talks, just like what happened in the French Revolution. So then we move from that age to Britain. You know, somebody was talking about women and their value. There are books that shows in the early days, women were equivalent, equivalent of oxen and mainly oxen. When somebody commits an offense, you either bring a woman or you bring about 2 oxen or so. You know, they are all there in literature. And of course, you must have heard that popular Chinese saying, which Nawaks, those who are in Nawaks here, they are very much aware of it. I saw 2 people coming. Oh no, it's one. It's a man and one woman. But that is a child's play
compare with the right to vote. Women started the right to vote in Britain, and this was led by Sylvia Parkhurst and her daughter Christabel. When you see the amount of torture that these people underwent, for so many years, they were not the one who actually got the women's right to vote, but they were the one who pioneered it. And then when you go to the US, it was Susan Anthony who started the agitation that women should start to vote. The bill, after so much persecution, got to the House in 1850. That bill was never passed until 1870, 20 years after, even when Susan Anthony had died. And so in his remembrance, in our remembrance, they now call it the Susan Anthony Amendment. That was when American women started to vote. So this is, and when you look at the individual life these people lived, they are very, very precarious life, and they are life of struggle to the time. So these are the stages in which they went into before we people even got independence, and we start from there. After the coming of the modern human rights movement, and that is the early 19th to 20th century, it was after the First World War that people started taking up minority protection rights because of what Hitler did to the Jews. Because every average European believed that actually they are superior. It was not only Hitler who had that feeling. It was not only Hitler. Every average European, that is what you saw all over. So they started complaining that, well, we should take up minority protection. And so they started with all manner of committee. And it was this reason, because of the humanitarian crisis of that war, that the International Red Cross Society started. Then it is still on till now. And then during that period was when they initiated the Nuremberg trial, in which case people who committed crime with Hitler at that particular time, they were brought to justice. And that is the foundation of the International Justice at the Court of Hague, in which case your deed as a ruler, when you are in power, can be visited years even after you have left office. So all these incidences led to the creation of the United Nations and the Universal Declaration of Human Rights in 1948. Shortly after this was when the realization, like our Olori said, the people agitating that they want their freedom, the slaves. Of course, there are some kind people among the whites who actually wanted them also to be free. But people started to agitate that we needed to be free. And so American Civil Liberty Organization also came into being. And one of the most famous was that of the Harriet Tubman I told you. Another one was that of Martin Luther King Jr. You know, the Martin Luther King Jr. started as a church. You know how it started. Rosalind Parker, a woman who was a seamstress. He went to work and she was coming back. The whole bus was crowded and there was a space for her. She sat down. Then one young white boy came and said, "No, you can't sit here. You have to get out." So she refused. She refused. And when she refused, they took that woman and threw her out of the bus. Similar thing also happened to Nehru. To this man in India, Gandhi. Yeah, Mahatma Gandhi. He was also thrown out in a train when the British were still in India. So it was from there that the Southern Christian leadership of the Baptist Church of Martin Luther King Jr. started to organize. Of course, the father was a pastor, but before he became a pastor, he was a petrol attendant. And I remember vividly, which I can never forget. One of the days, a young boy just came to the petrol station where the father of Martin Luther King Jr. was selling petrol and said, "Hey, boy," because no matter how old, at that time, once you are a black, they call you boy. Boy, say, "Put petrol in the car." And the man said, "Who is a boy? You are not even old to my son." And they slapped him. You know, and of course, it triggered a lot of things before he became a pastor. So the human rights, the civil liberties started, and
all manner of groups started organizing. In fact, by the time they were going to march into Washington, we have over 1,000 civil rights groups that coalesced to that great march movement. Among them, of course, when the groups were started, was a very notable group which was formed by Elijah Muhammad of the Nation of Islam. It is from where that you have Cassius Clay, Muhammad Ali, and Co. They got converted. And that movement was on. Their goal was that, look, you don't go to fight these people. When the blacks, when they have enough job to do, when they dress very well, and they are respectable, that the people will respect them. So it is compulsory. If you belong to the Nation of Islam, you must wear white shirt, long sleeve, black trouser, and a bow tie. And of course, their ladies also wear white blouses and skirts with their hair covered. And it was bringing in many, many people. Of course, you know, that was where also the former husband of Miriam Makeba, Amir Kabir, you know, also got converted. So all of them were bearing all manner of combined name, you know, Solomon Yusuf and things like that. They were doing very well, but crisis started among them. And that was the beginning of the crisis. Number one, they had their own internal problem. There was some esoteric tissue, like that a cat, you know, has about 7 other bodies of animal in it. And that it has an eye of a pig, those of this and that. Not only those teachings, they are very, very incompatible with science. Then there was also moral laxity. Of course, by the time the group was breaking, Elijah Muhammad was supposed to have impregnated 4 of her secretaries at a row. And so all of this, and they are very, very violent. They were very, very violent. It was when any of their members defect that they don't support whatever they are doing, the next thing is to kill him. It's killing that is the next thing. And that is why they were able to get Malcolm X. Malcolm X belongs to the Nation of Islam originally. And when he disagreed with Elijah Muhammad, it was a member of that group that got him killed. So these various groups, in their little effort, were able to control and manage people. In all of this that we are talking about, there are always betrayers. And that is one of the problems the Nigerian civil society organization face. The ways that they handle it, sometimes they may not be. For example, Harriet Tubman, the first thing he did when he wanted to embark on that thing was to get a revolver. And so, if it takes you, and that is one of the things that is surprising. History keeps repeating itself over and over again. People who are going on the way, they are almost getting to where we are going. They are rebelling, that they want to go back. Of course, you remember the biblical story of what the children of Israel did also to Moses. It also happened. But in our own case, you dare not mess up. It's either freedom or death. If you say you are not going back, we will shoot you. And that was why she was able to cover. She never lost a single person. Cover. The same thing also happened to a very reasonable extent. And it was very, very sad, especially in the case of Southern Christian leadership. They were agents of the government. They were agents of the government. They were leaking out secrets. They were, you know, all manner of things. In fact, the first time Martin Luther King was taken to court, one of the things that surprised him, that made him to break down in the court, was the principal witness against him was one of his closest friends. But in all of this, the American women has done exceedingly very well. They have done exceedingly very well. Many of you will remember Afeni Shakur. Afeni Shakur was the mother of Tupac. You know, Tupac Shakur, that famous rapper who was shot and killed. Afeni Shakur was so powerful. She was in the Black Panther movement. And you know the Black Panther movement was opposed to that of Martin Luther King, because they believe that whatever it is necessary to get our freedom, violence, we must use it. And so they were very, very violent. They started as a community police, and Shakur was their secretary, a woman, you know, and she held that position very well. Dealt with so many men who are supposed to be traitors. In fact, when you are planning the part of traitor, from what you read in her book, she deliberately be your friend and get very good information which she uses for espionage. So many of these American women have done extremely very, very well. Of course, you remember how the leader of the Panthers movement, was killed. He was on his bed and he was shot, sleeping in the afternoon by the American police. Now, from all this, we talk about the Nation of Islam. Well, there is still a remnant of the Nation of Islam till now, and that is Liu Farahàn. Many of you know Liu Farahàn is a very popular media personality. He talks about black emancipation, decolonization, and things like that. He was a member, original member of the Nation of Islam, Mosque number 7 in the New York. So all of this moved down to our present area, where you have, we call it digital age. And the digital age, what is different from this digital age and the former struggle, is that you have technology to aid whatever you are doing. The EndSARS crisis would not have lasted that much, but for the fact that it was being light by TikTok, by Facebook, by other people. Even the one end of bad governance in Kano is the same thing. So what we are saying therefore in a sense is that our civil science society must understand the changing world and be able to use whatever they have as a tool. And in all the groups that we have, I synthesize 5 critical points in what those people use. 1, adaptation. Each group develop its path for survival. You must develop your path for survival. You must, either by coded bombs, wade in the water, or condom Moses, or any other thing. And some of the leaders need to be very firm and decisive, especially on traitors. Coalitions. Many of these things that we do, a civil service society is not a one-man show. In my own write-up, I've been very, very careful not to mention a single civil service society, because many of them are lawyers, or before you can go into civil rights, you must be very, very knowledgeable in law. And just a simple mention, you will be slapped with libel or defamation of character. So I omitted them. But if we were to take them one by one, we know the shortcomings of each of them. But one of the things that stand out is this, is that they are afraid of forming coalition. And why are they afraid of forming coalition? Is because of betrayal. They have undergone series of betrayals over and over again. I have been involved, and I have seen it even myself. So it's when Father wants to do himself, he chooses his own. Ganifa and me, as famous as he was, he chooses his fight. You cannot. I remember I was in his chamber. You know, I was the one who meant to meet him over our crisis at the University of Ilorin. He said he heard that he was going to do something. He never did anything because it was not his own. The same thing also we did for Professor Wole Soyinka. All these people, they choose their fight because they don't know the next person. If you want to know the level of betrayal, go and read The Man Died by Wole Soyinka. People he trusted, people he hoped on, they betrayed him. And that even happened during the era of Nadepo. So, you are going to form coalition, but you must be as wise as serpent and harmless as dove. Then, there is no going back. Once you started on it, you have to be persistent, especially in university. Our society is very brutal, and we know what people underwent. You know, you remember Katugo, you remember Dele Giwa. All these people were fighting against government, or they have one evidence or the other against government, and the system took them away. So, but does that mean that we are going to run away or leave the battle? No. We must be persistent in adversity. And then we must be resilient under attack. Now, I wouldn't want to waste our time too much. I have here the role of civil society organization in Nigeria. You know, we are to talk about the role. But when we talk about the role, I always remember the story of that old judge in England. That judge was old, and he was to address a congregation of younger judges. And he got there, and he said, "Ladies and gentlemen, I am very old, and this place is very hot. You know your duties very well. Go and do them." I personally believe that our civil society knows their role very well, and they have been doing it creditably well. I can say that without any fear of people. You know, so telling them about their role, they know it. But what is at stake now is how to effectively perform it. Like I said, the major takeaway here is that during the pre-colonial era, it was the civil society
that liberated and started the agitation for decolonization. You will remember the Nigerian Youth Movement formed by Herbert Macaulay. They started all manner of agitation, then followed by Lagos Market Women Association. Of course, what they do in their own case was commodity protection. The whites, they need to bring their ship, they take palm oil and things like that. They met and said, look, we will sell these things to our people and we are not going to sell to the whites. So it was a big problem. Some of them were rough-handled. And then you remember the Aba Women's Riot and so on and so forth. All these are mass mobilization by different people, by different groups, before we called into the era of the Nigerian Labour Congress. The Nigerian Labour Congress was involved in mass mobilization, and they did it very well up to a point, especially our founding fathers in Modu and Co. have good luck, and many of them, they did very well. But again, the federal government and the government in power, they went into them, scattered them, and destroyed them. Now the labor movement is faced with, nobody is even listening to them again. But there is something worrisome. President Obasanjo made an allegation against them recently. Until now, it was very, very feeble response. That for every negotiation they are going to do on behalf of workers, that when they get there, they just say them, give them sacks of Ghana must go. And that is, they come out with very wishy-washy agreement. And that should not surprise anybody. You see some of them leaving the labor union position to become governor, to become this, to become that. Where is the money? Especially based on where do they get that money from? In the time past, what we know that the labor union used to engage is that their children, they get them educated in the USSR when they were still caught in Africa. All the Wahabagulas, Bodu and the rest of them, their children were trained free in Russia. That is the benefit of being a unionist. But now, sprawling estate, big whatever. So it is a challenge that the labor itself must look inward and see how it is. So we talk about different periods, but I wouldn't want us to go into them. Essentially, what we have is that there is usually the government clamp down on the labor union, and the labor union in Nigeria has been resisting. But even when they resist, there is no support in them. Kokori, before he died, was lamenting that immediately Abacha clamped him into detention. Even in the church where the wife attended, in Delta State, I've forgotten the name of that area, it's a very popular name, where Kokori was. People, I'm not sure the church will be up to about 40 to 50. But when the wife come in, they will separate from her, as if she was a leper. And it is not even strange. It has happened over and over and over again. I remember one of our colleagues died, and we were to bury him in one of the Ekwa church. When our struggle was still strong, so I just saw my colleague, and I went to teach among them, just in my usual manner. I didn't know when each of them left, two of them. And they just left me on the seat, and I just discovered that they are somewhere else. So the Nigerian audience have not been supportive. They have not been supportive of their own. Sorry. Check the battery. Civil societies in our midst must find a way of carrying the community along, so that it is not you versus them. It is actually we versus them. And that is how it's supposed to be. An example is what is currently going on in the USA again. Bernie Sanders, had been individually campaigning against the oligarchs in government. And what he normally says at the end of every debate he has is that, look,
We cannot do these things again. Liaise with your local communities. And it has been 3 days ago, I think 2 days ago, there was a public protest against Trump in almost about 20 states in the USA. The major newspapers refused, and even the media, they refused to announce it. But if you go to other media, you could see them. So, and this is just a situation in which people banded together. Our civil society organizations have not been doing that binding. They are too far away. When French was to have his revolution, Voltaire, who was a dramatist, he will take place to the rural areas. And those places were very, very meaningful. So by the time it was time for mobilization, it was not difficult to mobilize them. So our CSOs must go into this area of mobilizing people in such a way that we will have enough, because no single individual can do it. Civil society organization is not a one-man show. It is a society that requires hard work. And the only benefit you have is giving you more hard work, so that you continue to do it. Not is just a place where you sit. A very good example is our union. People who know Dr. Dipo Fashina, we know that it embodies what a civil society is supposed to be. He does his own without any benefit. He works so hard for this union on daily basis without even hoping to get anything in return. So the civil society organization must go that to be able to have what do we call it, positive result. I will read the following things. How can the CSO function under our constricted space, especially dealing with a frustrated and dejected populace? Here are the imperative templates for civil society and human rights groups to sustain democracy. 1. Civil society must balance assertiveness with adaptability, taking advantage of both domestic mobilization and international solidarity. That is, you have international bodies that are willing to support you, but again, you have to do this surreptitiously, because the federal government does not want to hear that you have any liaison with any international organization. Leaders and rulers of civil society must know that the success of their effort depends on persistent innovation and unity of diverse stakeholders. Grassroots mobilization and citizens' engagement is very, very important. It is not enough to start making noise in Abuja or in Akure. We must go to Obaile, we must go to all the rural areas. It is when these people come, if it is 1 or 2, the day you are calling for protest that comes out from these villages, the crowd will be mammoth. But when you talk like this, we are talking to ourselves and we are not talking to other people outside, And then all CSO movement, is very, very few. We have very few women CSOs in Nigeria, and they have done creditably well. There must be a way. Yes, they have done creditably well. There must be a way of merging them, meeting together, and working together as a unified force. We must, at this point, force the government to conduct proper election or to cancel it. Look at the amount of money that is being wasted on elections, and we are not getting any result. And that should be one of the main focus. So electoral reform must not only be done, it must be carried out. If you read that document, which I have been privileged to read, on the electoral reform of Chega and Co., it was very beautiful, but the government was not implementing it. We must force government to implement it. And there's so much here that if the union feels strong about whatever I'm preaching, they can make it out into pamphlet instead of boring our members with sitting down. Well, I hope the various ideas put together in this lecture will be useful for our progressive movement. There is no perfect institution, but we must constantly be alert to that which is good for the society's adoption. Perfect organizations are not formed by perfect men and women. All the people that we have mentioned, if you examine them closely, you will have problem. Everybody, Martin Luther King Jr., he was the first black and first American. A day was situated for him for public holiday. But we know he's not a perfect man too. Go to the university where he did his PhD. His thesis is put under a cage, and they put it there. The document here is heavily plagiarized. So be careful of what you write from there. It's still in its university. So, and of course, the report they are releasing about him is not, although one of them are propaganda. But what we are saying in essence, you know, we talk about Afedi Shakur, whom I thought worked very well with with the Black Panther movement. But Afedi Shakur, there was another brother in the revolution whom he married, but it was his friend that he had that boy, you know, the rapper. He had the boy for the rapper, you know. So they are not perfect human beings. Of course, you know our sister Miriam Makeba had about 5 husbands or so, you know. But what these people stand for, me, that even talking, I'm not perfect. What we stand for is we stand for an ideal, and we use all our effort to pursue that ideal. It is not that we should revel in what is negative, but we should always aim at what is positive. All that needs to be done is to aim at building strong institutions. Strong institutions stand up to weak men. The battle for the soul of Nigeria is daunting, but we must not give up. So I'm done with my writing, but I had wanted this afternoon to be an afternoon of song, of something, but the environment is very, it's tight. So, but no matter how tight it is, you will join me in this song. It's a freedom song. It's taken from the church, and it's a common tune. I will start. We are on our way to freedom. We shall not be moved. We are on our way to freedom. We shall not be moved. Just like a tree that is standing by the waterside, we shall not be moved. We are on our way to freedom. We shall not be moved. We are on our way to freedom. We shall not be moved. Just like a tree standing by the waterside, we shall not be moved. Now let's take it all together. We are on our way to freedom. We shall not be moved. We are on our way to freedom. We shall not be moved. Just like a tree standing by the water, we shall not be moved. When comrades join together, we shall not be moved. When comrades join together, we shall not be moved. And like a tree standing by the waterside, we shall not be moved. Soli, soli, soli. Solidarity forever. Solidarity forever. Solidarity forever. For the union makes us strong. Victory, there is victory for us. There is victory for us. In our struggle for our members, there is victory for us. Forward ever, backward never. In the struggle for our members, there is victory. Isoleto, Africa, Aluta, Victoria, Sata. Thank you, Comrade Prof. It is a well-structured lecture, a lecture that I believe everybody here has benefited one way or the other. Thank you once more. We want to call on Barrister Victor Olatoyegun for his goodwill message.
I want to stand on the existing protocol, and I greet everyone present. Good afternoon. I am very, very delighted to be part of this, I would say, epoch-making event. I would say this is about the first time I'll be invited to a talk like this in this axis, in this territory. I was trying to say something to the person sitting beside me, how I wish this kind of a thing is further entrenched to be coming up on regular basis. Because individually, CSOs are armstrong and they can't do much. But when they come together to reason together and to even decide to do things, they can even move. I want to say something. As it was in the beginning, it is now and never shall be. So says the Bible, one without end. As long as there is problem in the world, people will continue to agitate. And when you belong to the rulers or to the ruling class, you will feel comfortable. And that is the essence of civil society coming to say no. They are bastions of human rights and conscience of the public most of the time. This, we, the CSO, may not know when we are going off track, because the world is constantly in covert operation. The United States of America and other superpowers are holding the apron string to the world. Whatever they want to happen, they see it happen. And most of the time, it is the CSO and NGOs that they use. Then, who is being used? Am I being used? Most of the time, funding is very, very critical to the success of NGO or any civil society organization. And the moment you allow to be funded by an international organization, I say, he who dictates the, he who pays the piper dictates the tune. So, most of the time, CSOs are subterfuge or surrogates, but originally they are meant to be non-governmental and to be conscious of the people. Therefore, I want to say that awareness is very, very important. Awareness not at the public stage, but at the microcosm of the macrocosm, the individuals in our community. And that takes me to the level of politics now. I represent Liberty and Rights Advocacy Organization. We see what is happening in Nigeria. Nobody is enjoying it. I am not trying to be sentimental. I thank God that a Yoruba man is at the saddle. But some of the time, I may be part of the party, but the moment they get there, it is a cliche or a cabal that will be ruling. Is it democratic? No matter how knowledgeable you are, if you are not connected, you cannot have your knowledge utilized. Therefore, I align with a socio-cultural organization now coming up. It is called Atunto Foundation. In one word, Atuto socio-cultural reawakening. We in the group, we feel the way to solve the problem in Nigeria is not talking to the person in government presently, but talking to the constituents, including the representative from in the government, House of Assembly, National Assembly, even at the local government level. Let them know that you are there today. In another 4 years, you will belong to the X class, the former House of Assembly member, former House of Representative member, and you will now be complaining. Why can't you do the needful now that you are there? So, we believe in advocacy, and see other CSOs should see it that way. Let us go to the individuals to see the need, why our society must change indeed. And the moment you say, oh, another election is coming, we see how they spend money, how they buy votes. And whoever invests in any venture will want to recoup his money. Another circle will begin. So why can't we do the needful? Restructuring. How do you restructure? I, as a lawyer, I discovered that the 1966 coup merely suspended the independent constitution. And when you say you suspend something, it was merely put in abeyance. It can be resuscitated. We have seen that the 1999 constitution that we are using is fundamentally flawed. As CSOs, a lot of people are talking about it. We need to amend it. We need to do this. Can the people there amend it to suit the masses? No. Why can't, if we don't know where we are going to, can't we look back to see where we went off track? We are talking of regionalism. Western Nigeria fared better before the federal constitution was imposed on us. And we saw what happened in the north. At their own pace, they developed. So also in the east. And we have all seen that the greatest problem bedeviling us is not being able to tell one another the real truth. We are not compatible. Why, if you want to be a federation, why can't we develop, at our regional something, there's somebody somewhere, because he doesn't want the national something that he is holding, somebody who is eating cannot talk. And the moment he is at the table, he will continue to eat. And the moment it was done, it becomes X. So, ladies and gentlemen, CSOs, let us increase the awareness to the individual level. The individuals include those that are representing us presently. Whenever they get to their chamber, when they are doing their meeting, stylistically, let them say the truth. Let them see the reason why we need to go regionalism. And that is the way to go in Nigeria. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Barrister, for the keynote. We also want to call on Comrade Goodwill Message. We want to call on Comrade Professor Tony Odiwe, Chairman ASUU for his Goodwill Message.
Good afternoon, comrades. I'm not coming here to give any lecture. We have listened to wonderful lectures by two great men. Our professor, comrade, leader, teacher of teachers, Aborishale, and our great comrade from Ilorin, ASUU. I've heard about you so much from the chairman, Shola Folayan. Yeah, so I'm not going to begin to give another lecture. I just come to bring fraternal greeting from my branch of Afami Awolowo University, and to identify with what we are doing. This what we are doing is what we have been doing before, and this is what we must sustain. If there is any organization or union that is still standing, that the government is doing everything humanly possible to kill, is our union. And we must remain standing, because nobody is going to actually fight for us. We are the one that we need to fight for ourselves, and the one that we need to protect and see how we can improve not just our welfare, but even the environment where we are working. So the only thing I just want to add is a challenge. And that challenge has to do with, we have listened to the role, we are listening to what the CSO are expected to do. But I just want to leave with the William Shakespeare quote. Coward dies many times before their death. The villain never tastes of death but once. Of all the wonders that I yet have heard, it seemed to me most strange that men should fear, saying that death a necessary end will come when it will come. Fela Anikulapo said, suffering and smiling. Then there is also this thing that has to do with what it takes a devilish man to triumph. It's all the good people around to either remain inactive or to do nothing. So on that note, I just want to challenge us that it's not just about the CSO, it's not just about the human rights organization, it's also about ourselves. And we need to do everything we can do as an individual and as a union to see how we can make this system, our country, a better place. Thank you.
Thank you, Comrade Chairman, for the goodwill message. We will now take the question and answer, which is going to be led by our Comrade Professor Alex Odi, the chairman of the occasion.
Comrades, briefly, I'm not leading questions because I'm not the one asking. But I'm only going to coordinate, and I think my job is a lot easy. If I may ask, there are only two sectors here. So if you don't mind, please, I would like to take just a few questions. Time is fast spent. So let me have from the blue. You know one funny thing? Here we are, we have red and blue. I hope it's not America replicating itself here in FUTA. Yes, the Democratic Party and the Republican Party. He is not here. After what Olori Ebi told us about America, I don't think we should attempt to. So please let me have from the blues first. Okay. Comrade Shoga, Comrade Yemisi as number 2, and then number 3. I have a comrade there. Comrade Folorisho as number 3. I'll come to the reds. So please, can we have Comrade Shoga, please?
Thank you. Let me just place it on record that we appreciate what they have delivered. My question is this, especially for the second speaker. We are talking about unity of sufferers, unity of workers, marked in the manifesto of communist 1848, put there on every page. Workers of all countries unite. But he talked about betrayers. how do we manage this betrayal? Because the power of one is so weak. Except we come together, we can't fight these oppressors. That's my question.
I thought you would spend 10 hours. Thank you, sir. We appreciate our speakers. Normally this should have taken some days so that we bring our jotters and our notes. Well, to our comrade, Comrade Debo Ajayi, I'm going to face you.
You are facing me.
Yes, you gave us some reports about women involvement in CSO. And a woman went to set 70 people free from slavery. I hope I'm quoting you right. When you now wanted to analyze yourself, only a woman, my spirit just went down. That what was the difference between Comrade Ajayi and the former people who compared a woman to 2 horses? The second one, you said, just a woman. I said, then struggle today. We have to fight it out. This thing has been on for years, for decades. It's discouraging women. It is. From the young age, we start to have 2 sexes in the home. And the 2 grow on that parallel line for life without merging. So before we even come out, the men will make us afraid. Is she not a woman? I think among the elites, this thing should die down, please. I think with science, the difference is only the reproductive organs. So God will help us. Stop pushing us away. Then 2, we also have the issue of the doubts because of no results. We know that if we call our colleagues out now for any strike, 2/3 will not answer. Look at the Lekki youth. So many families lost their wards. Until now, nothing has been done. So if you go to Lekki tomorrow now and ask people to come out, I'm sorry, if we can shame our children, we shame them. Because those boys were killed and girls were killed in cold blood. And we see it happening. No justice. Then the issue of knowing what is right or wrong. Their history as a subject was removed from our curriculum. For years, these issues were the background for most of us. We were taught the history of Nigeria, who was sick, who was Fumi Kuti, and we were encouraged. But at the time, some people sat down and removed that. So by the time we start breeding goats as children, we are to blame ourselves. When we were growing up, most of us went to religious schools, and there they tell you about integrity, fairness, responsibility. Where is it today? And at a point when you want to do something bad, that sentences come back. If you went to Catholic school, they give you songs that comes to your brain, and it's part of us for life. All those things are eroded. If they went to Muslim school, they have their own ways too. So there are some things we've neglected in this country that is affecting us. That's why we have people killing without any remorse. Though we are not saying it's right for anybody to kill. And then, sir, our youths, what are we doing? If these students come in 100 level and you tell them to come and get their certificate,
they will be happy. When you teach too much, they will tell you, mommy is too much, mommy is okay. Why? We are not encouraging them. We have families with 10-year-old graduates, nothing, no job. There are so many issues on ground. Thank God for the somebody who did birthday and acknowledged June 12th. We were in hotel at Ibadan with Professor Aborishade for June 12th. We slept in that hotel because of June 12th, discussing on civil rights and human rights. Look at the years it took now for somebody to just come and just mention it in passing. Can you remember, if you count the number of our people that died, human rights groups, civil society, for that EU, we have nothing to show till now. So where are we going? I don't know. God will help us. Then the EU of sustainability of democracy, which one, sir? Is it the one we are through now, the present one? Or we want to bring back what it should be? So there are so many things. And then the lectures are ceasing. Some years back, when they started the lecture again, Aborishade, we went together, gathered the students in one lecture theater there to tell them about some history of what used to be. Who is doing that now? Who is well fed enough to even gather anybody? Talk less of buying biscuit for the students. God will help us.
Comrade for Honorable, please.
Thank you, sir. When I listen to lectures like this, I'm confused. Yes, we know where we are coming from. We know where we are, but where are we going? The lecture by the Baba, the second to the last, I was seeing question, this democracy, I thought there would be an option for us that we can go for. Because true to be said is that democracy has failed. As it has been suggested that it will fail many years ago, that the idiots will want the government to favor them, it will give them, and all like that. And that's where we are. In the Western world, they know too that can be. But when I was studying in China, I took time to go into their culture, the language, and what have you. Because I was, in fact, a Nigerian saw me. He said, he was the one that called me Dr. Flu. He said, Dr. Flu, the way I see you, but you will return, and nobody will even know that you travel out. Because it's like the body of Nigeria is still on you. Because I will ask him, then look at it. When we talk of culture, those people are not culturally advanced as we are. A Chinese man can spit on this floor and he doesn't see it as bad. But we are well cultured, but where is he taking us to? Now, what I want to bring out from China that made me refer to is that on their TV, by the time they are talking, America is having issue with them that they are not practicing democracy. They will tell them that we are practicing democracy with Chinese characteristics. And that's where I'm going now. Must we copy what America is doing? We started from UK, parliamentary system. We felt we're not better off. We went to America. Are we better off? Why can't we design a democracy from our ivory tower and start preaching it with Nigeria characteristics? Or maybe I should follow what our barrister said. We are not a people. Can we let a people go, people by people? Then secondly, the second aspect of my question is this. Now, since 1960 to 2025, we know the years. We are still at the same point. Can we change strategies, sirs? When we look at student population in Nigeria, if you take that away from people that vote, I want to believe that it will take higher percentage. Why can't we, if we know what to do, ASUU, we will not call it ASUU political party, but why can't we, go into, because what I accept, we want to go the way of Ivory Coast, or is it Ivory Coast, Burkina Faso, because as democracy is, can they create local governments, sir? Can they say, okay, we want to go to regional, like somebody pointed out, you put sweet honey in my mouth and you want to take it, I beg, we go die, we go die. I will defend it. So the honey is in their mouth, they are not ready to leave it. Sir, sorry to say, take a call person who call, I won't say ASUU, let me just say, call civil society person that we know is the highest in Nigeria, take him to be president of Nigeria tomorrow. It's the same story. Because he has a constitution that we fully guide him. I cannot go beyond it. So why are we waiting for another Traore, or we form a party and take it back in the essence of it? Thank you.
Thank you very much. I considered Professor Mrs. question very, very important, and that's why I'm going to take it as the first one. On women, I did not speak of women pejoratively, and I cannot. I have all my life been a woman activist. Let me tell you that something that will surprise you. I got married in 1986. And I still have my wedding card today. Under the column of toast, this is what I wrote in 1986. My toast is this: the woman is the equal of the man. She has every right as the man, and one more right, the right to be protected. That is on my wedding card now. So the quotations I made, the first one, we are women. Actually, that quotation came in when they were reviewing the conditions of women in Britain. In Homer's Odyssey, it was there in one of the battles that when they wanted to share the spoil of war, they were comparing women to oxen. And that was what that women has gone far. The second one, and I actually deliberately quoted that because I thought you were in that conference. I lifted it from Professor Mrs. Egunjobi's address to Nawak. And he quoted the Chinese, one of the popular old sayings of the Chinese, that I saw two people coming. Oh no, it was one, a man and a woman. So, and the world has moved beyond that. There was a women conference that was, women conference that was held in Nekuma. I was one of the contributors, and I think the women there were happy when I go on. I mentioned, if you look at the quotations, the activists that I mentioned, they were mainly women, like Sylvia Pankhurst and the daughter. Please go back and Google. You will even felt like crying for them, the struggle they made for women. Police were on horses, beating them, dragging them in the street of England, just because they were asking for women franchise. And what about Susan Anthony, the American woman? So I have a retinue of them that I can quote all over, even in Africa. So I can never and will never make any pejorative remark on women. I'm sorry, Ma, if you got it that way. Then on betrayal, yes. In fact, what our comrade here just said about why don't we
use students and things like that. It has to do with betrayal. One, betrayal festers where there is poverty. And you will agree that there is a high level of poverty in our society. It is not that we are going to fold our arms and say because there is betrayal, we are not going to do something. It only have deep planning. For example, there is no organization, especially revolutionary organization, that you don't have layers of authority. It is even in ASUU. There are times when they want to have meeting, they will say neck for neck. That is, chairman alone are going to be there. If anything comes out from that meeting, they know the number of few people that they are going to handle. Our strategies, our tactics must be protected. And it is not for me to say here, you know, that people who betrayed, the society itself will define what it is. We didn't have that problem in the time past. And that is why we have the local court, Oboni, Okwebe. They thrive. Because when you do something, they have a way. Nobody will tell you this is how it is being done. It is just like the funding of CSO. No CSO man will tell you this is how it's being funded. And that is what the NGO bill that is presently in the National Assembly is saying. That they must be giving their yearly advice. I mean, their yearly account. Okay, how do you, the outside you mobilize or the young boys you mobilize to help you carry postcard and run around town, which you pay. How do you put that down? So they want to make it almost impossible for civil societies to operate. So with betrayal, you know, if you go into revolutionary tactics, you will know that there are levels. In China, in Cuba, in Bolivia, you know. So there are coded messages. For example, when in Bolivia, they were the first country in South America to get their independence. The revolt started from the church. It was from the church. In fact, the bell that they use for that revolt is still in front of that church in their capital city till now. And what happened was that when you go into the churches, they arrange these things with the parish priest. But all you just see is just the people passing out. You remember what happened in Philippines of Churasin Aquino and Philip Marcos. When Churasin Aquino, the husband of Churasin Aquino was coming from abroad. She was killed right at the airport by Philip Marcos. And the priests, the following Sunday they gathered. They marched around the city, and that was the beginning of the end of these people. Their tactics and your strategies must have inner core. It's just nothing you just throw around. We're not just saying because we are all here now. No. In every movement, look at the Arab Spring. There are, the Arab Spring started in a mosque where they started talking about this, and then on and on and on like that. So and that is one of the things that you have as a plus for the Israelis. If they want, for example, there was one man who was the Eggman to Hitler during the Nigerian Civil War. I have a book, they call it Secrets. During the Hitler, whatever, he committed so many crimes and ran to Argentina. And it was the plan of the Mossad, which is the secret service of the Israeli, to get that man. It took them almost about 40 years that it was still there. The same thing that happens to Abu Jihad in Tunisia. So all of these things, they are strategies. And the betrayal is to warn civil society that you don't just throw your plan open. There must be nest, as the Israeli will call it. That's the inner caucus, where you have, and where people can be held accountable. That's the issue of betrayal. We cannot give up. No, we cannot give up. We must continue to fashion ways and means by which we can remove the betrayal. When we were started as undergraduate, I got into UI in 75. And since that time, I was in the move of every crisis or every protest in that place. We were the one who moved all the way from Ibadan. The day Mohammed Murisala was killed. And we started from Akoka, trekking down to Tapapalewa Square, singing Dikpa, and all that. But I was a student then. Then later on we went to the Lagos City Hall, where Ebenezer Babatokwe, Bolabo Ogunsowo, Kumolu Johnson, they all addressed us. What am I saying? It was easy for them to work with students at that time because none of us could even take up the trail. On Sunday you have gutter chicken on your table, and then with ice cream and things like that. But now it's not the same thing. The students here, we have been, especially at Ilorin, we tried to work with them, but they will betray you for a very little sum of money that you will be surprised. And they do also, the betrayal is everywhere. The betrayal is everywhere. Thank God we were able to win our case in Ilorin, but we also knew what we did to get a particular document right on the table of the Vice Chancellor to the Union. All these things require careful planning and strategy. Revolution, as you all know, is not a tea party. We must work.
Thank you very much. I do hope that probably questions have been answered. I don't know, did you Comrade Follow just on? Was your question addressed?
No, he was the one who said we should work with students. And I said it's very difficult to work with students for now because of
So the reds now have it. Comrade PC. Comrade Prof. Number 2. Number 3. RSK. You, convener, you want to ask a question? Okay. Because if you don't ask, you will close. Even you, MC. Okay, so in that order, please.
Just probably in deep introspection and fair. Let me start by saying this. Poverty has been weaponized in Nigeria. It is not a disease anymore. It's a weapon that is being used by our leaders. And for us to get out of that, we have to reinvent the modus operandi of our civil societies. I will land on that. But where are we present?
Where are we presently? The ethos of our civil society, which of course is one of the words that was captured in this lecture title, is one that is so
endemic now that if there is a struggle, I would normally say, in the balance of the union, and if in that struggle I am not a direct beneficiary, then I may be flat-footed or not interested in joining the struggle. Let me throw this in. Perhaps if today's lecture had read something that has some economic advantage or some pecuniary foresight or forceps coming after such an academic engagement, despite what is happening on campus now, the examinations, the audience here will be much more than this. So I'm saying that the society, right, is having a critical challenge. That is, where is humanity, the face of humanity in our society now? So our society is fast losing humanity such that the ethos driving our people now is not the fact that an injury to one or an injustice to one is an injustice, or rather, an injustice to me is an injustice to me. Let me go and fight that. So if my brother is bleeding, as long as I'm not bleeding, I will just tell him I'm sorry. Now, civil societies are not driven by spirits. They are driven by human beings. It has an humanity template foundation. Once that foundation is now being wood, alas, being converted to the ambience of materialism becomes a problem. People are becoming too materialistic. Olori gave this little analogy before he left using Professor Ajiboye's head that he does not need it. So why would you want to ask for it? So beyond poverty, there's even a more dangerous vice that is driving this current ethos we have within our people, and it is called greed. Greed. People wanting what they don't need, all in the face of doing one obnoxious competition on the materialistic platform, which is not necessary. Even back then, those days, we talked about the issue of people betraying, which we have talked about. I don't want to go back there again. It will not stop, as you have said. But then also, there was the popular struggle that when my brother is bleeding, I'm also bleeding. That is gone now. We don't have it anymore. So people only join the struggle when they know they are a direct beneficiary. That is a problem on our hands now. Now, let me land on this. We are talking about civil societies and human rights groups, but I've itemized a particular weapon that is being used, which you have also more or less stressed in your response to the last questions, and that is the issue of poverty and the role it is playing. Perhaps it is now expedient that our CSOs need to have a colloquium, which is very important, where the debate will now be reinventing civil society's operations in a poverty weaponized society. Because we need to rethink how to deploy our CSOs. Because those days, poverty as a weapon was not as pronounced as we have now. So when we will have a colloquium, a think tank on that, how to reinvent our civil societies in a poverty weaponized society, probably ideas can come from such a discourse that will now modify how CSOs deploy and face issues of human rights in the country. Thank you very much.
Thank you, the guest speaker, and all the people that have spoken on the topic. Mine is a comment and also a question that will likely deviate a little bit from what we are discussing. One is that the democracy is a process, it's not an end. We need to continue to evolve to where the people want it to go. The American democracy that we are practicing, what is the problem with it is that we borrowed everything hook, line, and sinker without any adaptation to our cultural environment. And that's one of the major problems we have with the democracy that we're practicing right now. When we talk about the civil society, how they go about to organize and enlighten people at the grassroots and the rest of them, my mind comes back to the university system. You discover that right now in the university system, we have different unions. I think we have up to 3 or 4 unions. And they're working together to pursue the interest of the university. It is an enlightened society. But we discover that each and every union is working at crossroads. Nobody trusts it because of the problem of betrayal. So if we are going to join civil society to be able to educate and galvanize those in the society at the grassroots, we must have to organize ourselves from here. Personally, I believe that the reason why we have been failing with government in most of the struggles that we go with them is because we are not united. Each union is talking about this group. So, my question is how do we galvanize the unions in the universities to be able to pursue one common goal? Thank you.
I appreciate our guest speaker. We all magically continue to enrich you in knowledge. My area of concern about the lecture is the issue of the student. But we are saying that for now there's not much to do with the student because of the influence of the society and the situation we have. But there is a saying in Yoruba land that if you want a deity to die or a culture to die, so you should not involve the younger world. So I believe that during your days, and to a certain extent our days in university, we imbibe this struggle from the leaders in the university. We attend lectures, we listen to good speakers. That's why we imbibe that culture from them. But nowadays, the youth of nowadays are not ready for that. But at the same time, can we just keep quiet or just give them out of it? Let us believe there is hope. If you look at what happened during the ETHOS, it's a signal that in the nearest future, something tangible can come out of it. And my advice is that we should not relent. We should engage the masses. We should engage the youth. We should engage the working class. So that our own democracy, if we have one at all, we can at least reactivate it. Thank you.
Going on in my mind. And one of them, I want to summarize it with Karl Marx theory, the theory of class struggle, where he says the oppressed becomes the oppressor once they gain power. The oppressed becomes the oppressor once they gain power. We have the ruling class, the bourgeois, and the working class, the proletariats. And they classify themselves, they are all in classes. And Karl Marx proceeded to say that as long as that class exists, there will always be oppression and the struggle will continue. In Nigeria today, we know that these people in government, there was once a time when they are struggling to get to power. And they use all forms of campaign to blackmail those that were in power then. And eventually they got to power. And now they are in power, we are seeing all sorts of things. Now the civil society, where my question now goes is that, and even, let me even add this. When we look at the class thing, when you look at the politicians, the ruling class, the people that fixes their salary, revenue mobilization, allocation and fiscal commission, those that fix the salary of the working class, salary, income and wages commission. And in every facet of the country, there's always this separation. Yes, it exists in every facet of the... Even there is this law that says if you are working, you cannot contest for any office unless you resign. And definitely we have seen a lot of them in our society. When they resign and they join the ruling class, their mentality changes because they have switched classes. Isn't it the right time that we begin this sensitization and probably these laws that are there to find a way of dismantling this class. And that's just what I want to put there.
I will start from our comrade. Yes, I will start from Comrade Oyinbo. It is nearly impossible to have a unity of purpose in the university, especially with the various unions. It has a long history behind it. In the time past, when there is the need for a general struggle, what ASUU used to do is to call all the unions and joint union struggle. But one after the other, they withdraw. The non-academic staff, they withdraw. And at the end of the day, you are left with ASUU. I'm not even too sure what the goal of a university is that we will need unity for. The goal of a university varies with the union. ASUU presently, what we mainly fight for, and it has been a long time, when ASUU's strike is about to take place, give us autonomy, we will list about 3. And over again in various conferences. I've been in various congresses all over the country, Badikuri, Port Harcourt, just name it. They will tell you that, look, we don't need all this autonomy or give us cash. And we needed it. NASU, when the NASU, non-academic staff, the junior staff, they will take the scale of ASUU to drive their own scale. And what they withdraw is almost a Baltico. What a cleaner we want to hand is a Baltico to what a professor we want to hand. It's at we are not talking apocrypha. It's at the negotiating table of NASU and the rest of it. Go and look at it. So, in that context, it is very important to note that we must hold our union together and continue to get whatever we can get with it. We know is that when we get anything, it is from us that they take, because individually they cannot stand for their own victory. We hold the student. If the whole of NASU, NAT, and the rest of it, they are not working, and we are teaching the student will come and we will teach them and go. So this kind of unity is very, very difficult to attain. And that takes me to our comrade, Comrade Oniya's struggle, on how CSO can function in all of this. One thing that we should be very clear about, there is no CSO that gives victory or leads to revolution. Start from France, start even the American Revolutionary War, grab to Russia, down to China. They cannot. It is only when the conditions are bad that people get to understand. I'll give you an example. Immediately after the First World War, Britain was one of the countries that was hit by the tariffs. You know, Britain, even till now, they import almost about 70% of their food from different places. People were dying in the streets of London because of hunger. And when it was the Labour Party that brought them together, they unified and decided that, look, we must do something about agriculture, and started on the poultry and things like that to make them self-sustainable. In China, you will know the condition of the China when the Khmer Rouge Party was there. It was the time of Chairman Mao. During the period, there was a period of famine in China, and many of you will have had it, when people will even offer their children to be killed, to be eaten, and then ask for your own children to be eaten. In the present China we are calling about. But when the condition became so hard, Chairman Mao and his gang, they started as a group, not as a CSO. They started one after the other, and they started preaching to those people in the villages. They are very, very few. They could easily have rounded them up, but they saw sincerity and hope. For example, it was said of Chairman Mao, when they want to take a village, The people there, because of the fact that they know they are coming, the cover of people said, okay, go away with your cattle, go away with your food, so that they could stand of hunger. As those cattle are going away, they will be dropping their feces. And you know they have not a complete digestion system. There are grains that normally come with it. They will pick it. It is what they receive. And that is what Shaman will ensure that even if it is a grain that everybody has, before himself will take any. So people saw the sincerity and the devotion and commitment. What civil service does in every society is to prepare the way. They are like John the Baptist. They prepare the way for revolution. And that is why when the change comes, when it becomes unbearable, people will just come over and take over. Except in very few cases do we have the leaders of the revolution taking over. You know what happened in the case of Fidel Castro. He came from prison, to come and lead the people, because by that time everybody was hopeless. So it is always better that we allow the civil societies, irrespective of their imperfections, to continue to work to mobilize people. Many of the things, especially in this age of electronics system, they bring to us a lot of stories that is enough to make people to understand, to get angry and say, okay, we want to ask for a revolution. But even in doing this, and that is another something I mentioned in my paper to the civil society, you must uphold the truth. Because you can only deceive the people once. When they know that you bring lies all the time, nobody will believe you. So anything, and that is one of the things that ASUU has, you can never fault any of ASUU's release. They will get the original information from the source that nobody can fault. And if our civil societies can do that, they will build trust in people, and people will believe them. There comes a guy, as it is now, it looks very uncertain what the future will be. But I believe when we go by history, when things are getting too bad, even the students that we are afraid to enlist now, we can be very useful later. Presently, our students, you know them, even many of them, by the time they are finishing, they don't have the hope of a job. It is not like on our own time. I was given a job in Central Bank, I rejected it because I would like lecturers, and I wanted to be like a lecturer. And so, our something, they don't have that future of hope. So while in the university, all they are interested in is to grant. If you can a student now and you are helping them, instead of them to be reading, they will be doing Yahoo. And then at the end of the day, they will say, but you are comrade, why did you fail me? That you are wicked. If you are not organized, they can even organize the killing, because the instrument of violence is in everybody's hand. Despite the, arm limitation treaty that decide that all this proliferation of small guns and the rest of it is not effective. And the people promulgate it, they are the ones who are breaking it. Of course, you remember what happened in Rwanda during the crisis of Kabuga, one individual. France sold 500,000 machetes to him, and it was that machete they were using in killing people. So all of these things are things that are happening. But when the condition gets, for example, when the student who is comfortable, the parent is giving him money to feed him, when he goes out, 1 year, 2 years, he has virtually nothing to do. Nobody will preach to him before he can even join the masses, and the revolution will go on. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. We're very grateful. Thank you very much again, once again, Prof, for the lecture and the questions and the answers you have given. I want to say that I've indeed enjoyed myself, nodding my head, because his lecture brought memories of things that I've heard, I've listened to, and at times I found myself apart. Yes. It's now time. Yes, the MC. Yeah. I just want to say before I give the MC that, barristers, you come from the CSO. Comrade has given a suggestion, because one of the things is, whether we like it or not, we still know that the CSOs can form a very strong grouping and play a very significant role in the revival in this nation. That is not in doubt. But you may have to redirect in order to find yourself restoring, because there is a crisis of trust, and most of us know probably it's because of the kind of strings the government has placed on the organizations. But you can do something, and then when you're doing that, I want to say that probably it will be time to begin to look at how to involve some of the unions. Because, comrades, the picture is grim. It is grim. Like you said, sir, with Trump and what is happening, honestly speaking, the picture is grim. I was saying something, let me say about 6 months after the president assumed duty. I was saying, let's not be surprised. Now, I still maintain it. He might decide to convert himself into an emperor. He might. All it takes is the swift strategies he deploys. But that is not what we are supposed to be thinking of. I think we are supposed to be thinking of how to make sure that everybody knows he is equal and our rights are protected. And that can be through awareness. And I think the Nigerians are getting to the level where we need to start preparing ourselves so that if there is going to be any reaction from the Nigerian populace, it is carefully directed to achieve the desired goals. So please, keep this in mind. When you guys meet and have your discussions, you need to. And if you want, you can always drag in the, because from this ivory tower, they actually know how to bring out the ideas that will help you too. So, comrades, the job is done. May I hand over to the MC to round up with his vote of thanks.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for all the answers you've given to our questions. We really appreciate you. We will call on Comrade Professor, Comrade Dr. Ida to give us the vote of thanks.
Thank you, MC. Well, I don't know where to start from. Okay, my comrade chair says to start from somewhere. I have the backing of my comrade chair now to start from somewhere. I stand here with gratitude and appreciation, deep appreciation. Because when we were appointed or selected as members of this committee, I got the information that I was part of them. I was happy because each time I was given an assignment, I find a way of fulfilling it, the purpose. So when we started planning for this lecture today, and for some time now we have not seen rain. All of a sudden last night, the rain started. And the farmers need rain. Me too, I need rain. And I cannot pray against the rain to stop. And God is the giver of rain. So, but the Bible made it clear. It said, commit your ways unto the Lord, and He will direct your path. And so we believe that God, the rain will fall and do His own work, and the rain will not hinder our program for today. So on that note, when we came this morning, while we wanted to start, we saw the Jeep, black Jeep parked there. And one of our guests came in, he said, you people are very strong. Oh. I said, sir, how? You are able to move the Vice Chancellor. I said, not we. It's God that moved her to attend this program. And then we also informed that our guest speaker have already arrived. So we are happy and excited. So on that note, I want to stand on behalf of the Civil Society and Human Rights Committee of our great union to appreciate our guest speaker for making it to honor this great invitation, sir. Thank you. God will honor you, sir. I also want to appreciate our keynote address, our own person, a professor. When he was ready, he called us, we went there to pick him, and then
he came and delivered his keynote address. He has left here. God also will honor him. And then I want to appreciate the chairperson that drove all the way from Ife also to come to honor our invitation. Despite the bad road, he came. My chairperson, you are highly honored. Permit me to digress a bit because we have various schools and I belong to one school here and my dean came to honor the invitation. The Dean of Slate, you are highly welcome. So all our ICPC that are here, all of us will plan this program together. Our chairperson is part of those that plan this program. One of our, I remember two of them, our ICPCs, they were calling me, comrade, have you done this? Have you done that? Have you collected this? Have you collected that? Just to make sure today became a success. Also want to appreciate them. The Lord will preserve you for us. And then our mommy that is here, she came, she didn't leave. She wanted to see the end of the program. I want to commend her. Because when we see her behind us, we are happy that the mother is behind us. Mommy, we appreciate you. And all other persons that have made this day a great success. I pray that the Lord will grant us long life. We shall live to reap the fruit of this union and then pass it on to the forthcoming generation. Thank you for making this day a great day. Thank you and God bless you.
Thank you, Comrade Doctor. It's insightful. And when he was giving the vote of thanks, he mentioned our mommy that came here early and is still waiting. He's here to the end. She had other engagement that she wanted to go and attend to. However, she's still seated with us here. So I want to call on her, Professor Mrs. E.O. Adekwarusi, to give us the closing prayer.
In Jesus' name, we want to thank you, Lord, for the gift of this day. We want to thank you for our lives, for our family, for the civil society and the human rights organizations in Nigeria and our committee here for the planning and the execution of this meeting. All glory be unto you in Jesus' name. We thank you for all that have come from far and near into this meeting to be part of it, to talk to us, to advise us, to teach us. We thank you for the knowledge you give to them. We know it is you. Be exalted, O Lord, in Jesus' name. Amen. Thank you for all who have gathered here. Our VC was here before now. We want to thank you for FUTA. We ask that your presence will always dwell with us in Jesus' name. Amen. For every member that has been here, we pray that the Lord will move us forward, and the love for our country, our states, our people will be in us in Jesus' name. Amen. Lord, we declare journey mercies for all that are going back to their place, even within Akure. Lord, there be no bad news concerning anybody in Jesus' name. Amen. The Bible says we come in peace and go in peace. That will be our portion in the name of Jesus. Thank you, Ancient of Days. We ask that there be peace in this country, there be justice, there be safety, there be food on our tables in the name of Jesus. Thank you, Ancient of Days, for in Jesus' name we have prayed. Amen.
Solidarity forever. Solidarity forever.